Hello.
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 Welcome. Good evening.
Welcome, everybody. For those of you who don't know us, I'm Rachel.
And I am Courtney.
And we are co-founders of the Innerloop, which is an organization in DC that supports local writers. And we offer all kinds of programming for writers, readings, retreats, residency, podcasts, all kinds of stuff. And all our events are free and open to the public. And we're super excited to be collaborating with the Hillyer space.
Yeah, we're so glad Tim reached out to us. We have a history of kind of cross-pollinating creative artists in whatever genre they're working in. We focus on the literary arts, but we often invite visual artists and playwrights and anyone who's just engaged in the creative arts community here in DC to be a part of what we're doing. And we really think that enriches our experience and the vibe of DC, period. So we're super excited to be here with you who may not be familiar with us. So it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, and we love collaborating with other local organizations who support art. So just a little bit about how this collaboration worked. We have 8 writers tonight. One, unfortunately, was ill and couldn't make it. So we have 8 writers who came to opening night and also visited the space all month long to interact with the art, absorb it, and then try to write some sort of response to the art. So the things that are being read aloud tonight are quite raw because it's a very little time to craft something. But I think it's going to be a good conversation that goes along with the art that surrounds us.
Absolutely. We also, on that note, in terms of conversation, encourage everyone to go up and talk to the writers, reach out to them afterwards, and ask them about their process, and just get to know the people who they are.
Or just tell them how much you love
Yeah,
what they
also
wrote.
praise is great. We love that. And don't often get enough of it. Lots of rejections.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of our big tenets at the Innerloop is to foster that creative community dialogue. So please don't feel shy about going up and chatting with folks.
So a little bit about the logistics. The writers will read for about 5 minutes. Writers, you're welcome to indicate which piece you were inspired by or give a little introduction if you feel moved, but you don't have to. There's no microphone, as you can see, but it's very easy to hear in here. But we do have these little mics that I'm wearing right here for the recording. So we'll just pass that to each writer as they come up, and you can just clip it anywhere close to your mouth so that the recording can hear you. I think we'd like to hand it over to Tim to say a little something from Hillyer.
For sure.
Well, I'm very excited about this collaboration. As Rachel mentioned, we met for coffee one day, and I wanted to explore this idea of having a kind of an ekphrastic event. I used to have this program where I used to invite authors to come in and write about themes related to exhibitions, and I wanted to revisit that idea, and so I sat down with Rachel and went, we can do this. I said, well, better yet, we have one of the best exhibitions of the year that's going to be on view, and it's going to be curated by this well-known artist named Renée Stout, who happens to be in the audience right now. And not only that, but we also have some of the participating artists in this show. We have Cheryl Edwards over here, we have Joyce Wellman in the back, Shiana Fajoni. Great opportunity for you to not only experience what the writers have to say, but you can even take some time to even meet the artists in person as well. Very excited about this event. With no further ado, I'm just going to pass it on to you. Thank you all for coming. I hope you have a great program.
Okay, so I'm just going to go in alphabetical order because everyone is wonderful here. So kicking us off is Jen Clements.
All right, I'm clipped in and ready to go. The first piece, I've got 2 poems for you this evening. The first piece is inspired by the series of these sort of artifact sculptures, which are, there's a few in here and there's another few in there. This one is called Our Lady of Perpetual Elsewheres. Not turtle, not Winnebago, not covered wagon. What home must travel she carries in words. Latitude is a pillowcase changed weekly. Longitude, the bedsheet that wriggles free. Someone back home might read these hotel linens and boarding pass stubs like tea leaves, finding in each shape a meaning, but she takes her tea sweet, cold, and leafless, looking to presence more than prophecy, not stones, not postcards, not seashells plucked from distant sands. Hers is a museum curated in voices, laughter, and moonlit snacks. She can make pralines just about anywhere, and her vowels change after wine. Evidence of being from, of origin, of egg tooth before wing or flight. There is a story in everything she knows, so any conversation is worth holding. Items to juxtapose, home and not home, the is and is not. Her passport, the first book she will complete, illustrated in a variety of democratic inks, each stamp the mouthpiece for 100 voices, pollinations of empathy, whose home she carries in her words. A cherry blossom, a splash of matcha, a phrase you spoke to her on the train, which she will use again and again. And then one more. And the second piece is After Crossing, which is the giant painting on the back wall in the second room. Urban high-rise lumbering skyward, spire poised to pierce the clouds, a jolt of lonely fluorescence amid stories of dark. Who left that light on and when? Brick and wheat paste, copy room static and graphite shave, the olfactory punch of academia fills even the vacant classroom. What does learning smell like, if not here, if not this? For months, these places, boxes for holding humans, host only carpet, dust, and longing. We reserve haunting only for the dead, anachronism of clear boundaries different from an absence of the living, unpeopled, stoppered, ominous empty. Full, they thrum and bustle, these containers of crossing, with the alacrity of chance meetings, burgeoning connections, swollen electric with the consequence of all of these strangers sharing the same air, pretending they have nothing in common. Thank you.
Next, we have Sean Felix.
Hello. So I'm also going to read two pieces. The first is actually after Joyce Wellman's Third Eye, right here, and it is called Third Eye. When it opens, the revelation will not be still. What worlds of simultaneity, as your face distends, filled with awe. You become a pufferfish, a spy in 3 dimensions, breaking down into loops and swirls of surprise as universes are born into universes, in wave upon wave against your waiting skin. And sound waves open the doors of each star being born. And I dive in, drowning, but I grow gills, so that we can meet, so that we can kiss, because now I see you. A third eye shows the truth that I was always yours. Your tools, your teeth, etch into my flesh an ineffable canvas just waiting to be etched upon as we are both revealed, transcendent, possessed, laughing that it could have been any other way. The second poem I wrote is after Trevor Young's Red Bishop. It's hanging up there in the back room. And this one's called When We Were 25. When we were 25, I lived in the city and you lived in the suburbs. But Friday nights, you'd drive from your house and pick me up in your Chevy Nova. We'd get high and drive through the night, searching. Back then, I didn't drive. My movements were slow, and I was fascinated with the way light moved at twilight through the car windows. With weather, as the blue light took over the sky, I became, in your eyes, predator, or pray. One night, as we left the city and moved beyond the cul-de-sacs and driveway hoops, traveling further out New Hampshire Avenue, driving past golf courses and dams, my hand reached out and moved across your shirt like a brushstroke over your nipple, hidden, red and raised like a bishop's hat, adorning a skull covered for God. And you giggled, swatting my hand away, too distracting for this road, whose darkened curves demanded reverence, if not respect. And I smiled as your cheeks flushed brightly in the low lights of the dashboard. And the Nova continued to eat up asphalt as we searched, heading to the quiet places, where there are few eyes and voices, but many sighs of hidden things like us that avoid the light. Then, on the horizon, a red fluorescence pulled us in, beckoned with the cold of a world once built, now abandoned. An ocean of deep black resolving into a shore of gray and halogen sunlight. Mist obscured the window, rising, softening the corners of the structure like it was phasing in and out of existence, and we stopped. We moved to the back seat, where you climbed on top of me and we became transfigured, a mountain, our breaths misting in the chill air still tinged with petrol and the ancient memories of prehistory and Americana, presided over by these red bishops, white-walled, eyes obscured by the great artist's hand. This one blessed our consummation, as many of its brothers had, over thousands like us, dreamers of forever, whose prayers left their youthful lips and drifted upward to a God that paves the future with smoke and steel. Thank you.
Up next, we have Philippa Hughes.
I have a lot of context to give. I wrote a little bit of prose, and I appreciate you saying this is supposed to be very raw. So this is very raw. It's I was inspired by Cheryl Edwards' piece, this one right here. When I first walked in, I was immediately drawn to it because it felt very much like a portrait of Cheryl. I mean, we haven't seen each other in years, so I was sort of studying each piece to try to figure out, like, who is Cheryl? And then I called her and I was like, what does each of these things mean? And oh yeah, no, well wait, because I did not know what ekphrastic meant. So I was trying to, I looked it up, and I was trying to really understand what that meant, and so I was trying to respond, and then when I realized this truly was a portrait of Cheryl. Each piece is it's actually from like a replica of things in her actual home, on a shelf in her home. Like, they do say who she is. And so I thought about it as a piece about identity and who am I, like the very core question of our humanity. And then I was thinking about the name of this show, like the Oracle says. And finally it came to me what to write. This is gonna be longer than my actual piece, so I apologize, but I've been writing a book about what it means to be American, and then also what it means to be me. Who am I? And a very critical event happened when I was in Greece, when I visited the Oracle. And so that's what this piece is about. So I was like really excited about, this is a show about thinking about what does the Oracle tell you. Oh, I'm sorry, I need to give you one more piece of context because it's just like a little, it's a little excerpt because I've been writing this book for 2 years. And so I use this experience as just a way to continue writing it because I haven't been doing a very good job of writing in the last year. And so the thing that changed the course of the book was that I took a DNA test and found out my father wasn't my father. So I didn't believe that test. So I took a second test to confirm that information. So this is what happened. Okay. The subject line of the email from 23andMe read, "Your reports are ready. A world of DNA discovery is waiting." After shrieking at Adam, who was in the shower, I tucked away my phone and went outside to wait for him. I ordered 2 Aperol spritzes, arranged 2 lounge chairs side by side, and stared at the fiery ball of light sinking into the pagacetic sea, the Gulf. Gnarled olive trees stretched in every direction, their smooth silvery green leaves reflecting the late afternoon sunlight. I'd walked through the ancient grove behind our hotel earlier that day, across this rocky terrain and clumps of dirt cracked dry by the drought. Tiny desiccated olives clung to the branches. A Greek chorus of flying insects buzzed, cicadas chirped, goat bells tinkled. A historic heat wave had drained the land of moisture that summer. Fires raged across Greece. Every television broadcast images of enormous orange-red flames consuming forests and homes. We'd seen the hazy smoke over the island of Evia in the distance as we'd driven down the Pelion Peninsula and could smell the smoke sometimes when the wind shifted toward us. It seemed like I was rearranging the deck chairs as the world burned around me. After Adam finished showering and settled into the lounge chair next to me, he squeezed my hand before I took a deep breath, opened my laptop, and clicked the link in the email. Another pie chart appeared with exactly the same results as before: 50% Vietnamese and 49% Ashkenazi Jew. And I should also say I used to think I was half Irish. I clicked on the accompanying charts and maps again and again. The information never changed. 2 regions of the world were shaded on the map, indicating the geographic origins of my ancestry, and even listing specific names of towns. The first was Hanoi, the largest city in North Vietnam and where many of my maternal relatives live. The second was Nam Dinh, the same city listed on my birth report as my mother's birthplace. The precision of this portion of my DNA map made it difficult to deny the accuracy of the other part of the map that centered around Eastern Europe, where modern-day Western Ukraine and Eastern Poland can be found today. A page called DNA Relatives listed hundreds of names next to which were written their relationships to me and the percentage of DNA we shared. At the very top, a name I didn't recognize appeared as a predicted first cousin, Mark Jampol. I closed my laptop. We walked down to the pool area around which tables had been set for dinner. The pool lights were dim and the battery-powered candlelight was weak. Clouds blotted out light from the moon and stars. The cousin had an unusual last name, so Adam Googled him while I tore off pieces of bread and scooped salty tarmasalata into my mouth, washed down with red wine. Oh my God, I muttered over and over. You should write to him, Adam exclaimed. I stared into the dark night, shoulders slumped, phone in my hands as if about to type something with my thumbs, but nothing moved. Adam composed a message for me to send to the potential cousin through the 23andMe website. I just got 23andMe results telling me you're a likely first cousin. That's a surprise to me. My mom is Vietnamese and the DNA analysis nailed that, but the person I knew as my dad was Scotch-Irish. Yet my DNA is 50% Ashkenazi Jewish. So I wondered if you'd be willing to chat about your family, and particularly any uncles who might have been in Southeast Asia in 1967 or 68. While we waited for him to respond, Adam went into full-on sleuth mode while I stared toward the sea. The family name was unusual enough for him to find it on a Foreign Service list of every non-military American in Vietnam during the time I would have been conceived, Jampol. Mark responded quickly to tell me his uncle Stanley had worked for the Army Corps of Engineers, and he thought Stan had been in Vietnam during 67-68. He said he'd check with his cousins, Stan's children, probably my half-siblings, to confirm. When I told him about the Foreign Service list, Mark responded right away. Stanley is one of 10 brothers and sisters. By birth order, he was 8. My father, Alvin, was 7th. There are 30 first cousins, and now probably 31. I didn't need him to confirm with Stanley's kids. I ordered another glass of red wine. Less than 30 minutes after clicking the link, I'd learned the name of my biological father. Adam also discovered Stan's obituary. He died in 2010. I would never know him either. The next day, we went to see the Oracle. We wove back and forth along the switchback road up Mount Parnassus toward the center of the ancient Greek universe, the Temple of Apollo at Delphi. According to ancient myths, Zeus released 2 eagles, one from the east and one from the west. The place they met became the center and was marked with a stone called the Omphalos. During any major undertaking in ancient times, people journeyed up the sacred way to the temple to seek guidance from the oracle, who dispensed guidance from within the temple. Seekers offered a gift on the altar outside the building along with an animal sacrifice. If the Pythia, or the oracle, deemed the offering sufficient, she would transcend into a chamber beneath the temple sanctuary and breathe in fumes that arose from a chasm in the floor. Delirious with the vapors, she'd voice the wisdom of Apollo. Her answer was gibberish at worst and an enigmatic riddle at best, like shaking a magic 8-ball. A priest standing above her in the temple sanctuary would interpret her answer for the seeker. The last oracle dispensed advice until around the 4th century AD, and then Apollo's temple fell into ruins. Nearly 1,600 years later, I made a donation to the Delphi Archaeological Museum at the ticket desk, then walked along the path and stood in front of the columns that remained and offered a small ceramic cat near the place where the altar once sat. Maybe the vapors were still seeping out of the earth and would reveal some clarity. In ancient times, 3 maxims were inscribed on a column at the entrance of the temple. Know thyself, nothing in excess, certainty brings ruin. These 3 were the most important of the 147 maxims attributed to the 7 sages of ancient Greece. I pondered the first one as I meandered around the archaeological site, visiting the theater, the stadium, the Temple of Athena, and other temples that had been built as gifts to Apollo. In a speech in his trial for crimes of impiety, Socrates defended himself, and he said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." We tell stories about ourselves to explain who we are. We create mythologies to explain the world. Those stories can change over time, and the myth I had told about myself had shifted with this new information. Thank you.
Next up, to Wen.
That's a great segue. Oracles, and I was very inspired by the artifact sculptures that really invoked for me journeys and the Mediterranean and Greek and Roman history, and also teaching the Odyssey for like a decade. So here's my first poem. It's called Calypso in the Garden. And if you know the Odyssey, Odysseus on his journey spent a year with Calypso, and he is gone now in this poem, and this is her pondering. There is lettuce in the garden now, but it has grown in too thick, and you are not here like I hoped you would be, to thin it out. I have received all of your letters and have kept my promise, have sent you nothing in return, but I can't help writing to you. The letters that go nowhere tell you things you already know. How I love this island, its animals, the waves and rocks and sand. I should pick some greens to make a salad for dinner, a crown of weeds for my hair. But who would eat the salad? And who would laugh at my hair? Instead, I will do what I have been doing every night since you left. I will walk out to the shoreline, sit in silence on the rocks you loved, wait for boats upon the water, and try my best not to think of you, to wish them well, whether they are coming in or heading out. And this is a Ars Poetica. Oh, thanks. And so when I was thinking about what it means to write an ekphrastic poem, I was thinking about what it means to make art, because I'm a painter too, or to write poetry, and what it means to try to look at something and create words, to put words to it. So this poem is called Every Excuse. Because the words aren't coming quickly enough, as if they are dinner guests running a few minutes late, I can turn to this book or that one, and it is not disloyal or impatient. It is being prepared, practice to face any face but my own. Because even before the words, before I sat down with the right pen and the coffee at the right temperature, there were other reasons not to settle. The finches out front, frantic that the nests with eggs have disappeared. The eggs themselves have disappeared, and no one knows who to blame or how to start over again. Because of all that, and the rain too, watching. I stayed inside. I practiced waiting not for it to stop, but for all the slight changes, the intensity and duration, a rhythmic instruction on how to welcome what I did not ask for, the drought or deluge, how to listen without answering. And this last poem was particularly inspired by the painting in the back, which has all these really beautiful golden hues. And I drive past the same stretch every morning, and they've been golden lately. So this poem is called Harvest. On my way yesterday, the fields were golden in the just dawning sun. The stalks high enough I could not see beyond them. I had meant to take a picture every day for weeks, but I moved past too quickly, fast enough to beat traffic, faster than my intentions. By the time I returned in the afternoon, the smell of diesel warned me that something had changed. What waved in the morning wind laid flat. The ground tamped down, the husks piled in the back of trucks, evidence I had missed it. All I had accomplished during the day, the running around, just barely making it, the pieces jammed into place, I am embarrassed by it now. The hubris. To know that in the fields, they call it the beginning of the breakdown. What was I doing all this time if I wasn't witnessing that unfolding? Now, on one side, the trucks expectant for someone to drive them away or for someone to notice them. On the other side, progress. The ground rolled up into new shapes, bales perfectly round, dotting the plain. They remind me of paintings I once loved. Thank you.
Thank you. For those of you standing, we have 2 seats up here and 1 up here. Don't be shy. Come on. Anybody else want to sit? Diana, you want to come sit? You good? Okay. All right. Next up, Alice Sindosaraj.
Hello, everyone. I wrote an ekphrastic micro essay because I am an essayist. I have great respect for poets. I think it's very hard to write a good poem. So I wrote a micro essay. And I wrote about Trevor Young's painting in the other room. It's called The Hub, and it's of a airplane's turbine. Okay. No one saw when or to where Joey left afterwards, but no one was worried initially. We were experienced drug users, self-made experts at curating experiences both fun and relatively safe, parameters hard-won over time, shared through conversations at house parties or over the telephone. A kind of public knowledge spread by actual word of mouth. No Facebook, no TikTok, no Twitter. Just pagers and beepers. It was 1997. When the weekend passed and still no word, we held forth on the phone or over coffee tables in someone's mama's basement, sharing a soft blunt, dragging on menthols, munching on Cheez-Its and old pizzas. Have you heard from Joey? We hadn't. We had all paged him, not to call us back, but to send messages in code. When we paged each other, we did not enter a phone number for the recipient to call back. Instead, we sent numbers that corresponded to the 3 letters on each digit on a telephone keypad. The number 2 could mean the letters A, B, or C. The number 3 could mean D, E, or F, and so on. Where are you? We asked Joey's pager, sending the numbers 94373-7-8. Some of us, like Joey, could click through a series of digits on the gray inch-long screen of a pager and understand the messages in real time. She said, "Sorry, I left already," Joey would translate with ease before handing back one of our pagers. I, on the other hand, needed a pen and paper to read my pages. I could not see them in my mind. We could have knocked on Joey's door, but Joey's stepfather could be vengeful and mean. Years later, we discovered he had killed Joey's big black house cat, Inky, before he abandoned the family. Inky startled me every time I saw him. He was so large. It would have required some violence to take down such an animal. When we finally heard from Joey, he had been missing a week. "I joined the Air Force," he told us. We were all deeply alarmed. We blamed him just having a bad trip. "It was just a bad trip," we said. "He is going to ruin his whole life over one bad trip," the wisest of us all said. Days after 9/11, he was shipped away to an undisclosed location. We panicked and felt vindicated. Joey was going to ruin his life over one bad trip. Joey was going to die in a war zone, all because of a bad trip. But the war zone turned out to be Guam, where the real danger was falling in love with a stripper. Then the years fell by, like buildings do when you're on a train, and Joey became chief of an Air Force base. They straightened in the presence of his authority in Okinawa when you visited. They called him chief in Stuttgart, Germany, when he retired. I am 46 years old now, the same age as Joey. I wish for retirement, eager to have back all the time I now sell for my salary, while Joey is retired with full pay, sitting on a balcony that overlooks a bay in Thailand, his favorite country in the world. He is now the kind of man who has a favorite country in the world. When I relish how he proved us all wrong, I like to think of him in his first days as an enlisted man, when he wrote us letters filled with longing and rap lyrics. His job in those first days and years was to clean dead birds that had been sucked into the turbines of the jets. I see him in my mind, crouching hidden in the tall, power-washed wet turbine, the morning still dark. He is pulling bloody feathers from the blades at the start of an incredible journey, facing death, holding death, living life, a boy of 19, 1,000 miles from home. Thank you.
Next, we have Shayla Sabri.
The longest part will be me figuring out how to put this on. I'm like, oh gosh. Hi, lovely to be here. I wrote about Sharon Farmer's Beatrice Ferguson, age 97. I was immediately drawn to this, not only because of Beatrice's energy, but also the day I came on October 6th was the day before my 98-year-old great-grandmother's funeral. So I felt like really drawn to this image, and I promise I'm not gonna cry. I think. But a couple of references I make in here to, one is to Pantone, which is the color wheel, specific colors. One is to Plessy v. Ferguson, which is the 1896 court case that determined the separate but equal statute. That was the foundation of Jim Crow. I think those are the only references I make, and other than to my Nana. So, at home in Pantone. With both sets of fingers flexed, she's captured still, in motion, focused. Her hair white with age, her hips don't know as she finds the flow plastic looped around her. Her brow furrowed, attentive to keep the hoop moving. What I can't fully see, the slight bend of her knee as she dips and lifts to keep the hoop around her hips. The curl of her lips as I imagine she hums in order to keep the rhythm. But I almost see the girl born before Plessy v. Ferguson. Her name not the same, but in a similar lane as the landmark court case, which would keep her from hula hooping in the same gym as other girls with different pigment. But here she is the age of my recent dead, more alive than I feel with a third of her mileage. Here, Miss B is jubilant, fingers, face, waist awake in her 9th decade, despite the wide wake of a world rendered the way it is in this photo. Black and white and no place for the bright Pantone of her world. Hunter blades beneath socks and loafers, bice sky, sunsplash pattern on her skirt and shirt, gold-framed glasses to guide her into a future ever-changing, ever hers. Thank you.
Next up, Courtney Sexton.
Okay, so please be kind to me. I've been doing a lot of academic and science writing lately, so I'm just starting to re-stretch my creative wings. And this is a place that's near and dear to me. I've spent a lot of time in it. So thank you, Tim, and everyone for the opportunity. I have just a couple of very short little snippets of things that maybe will become actual things. But this is after Cheryl Edwards, this piece over here. I see dogs in everything. In the split crevice opening brain to forehead, the mind-body interface. There is a named condition for when people see faces and things where they are not. I call it the human one. Here, this dog is sitting, barreled chest full and proud, but the mania in his eyes betrays him to me, and we find ourselves staring down. Thanks. For those of you who know me, dogs are a big part of my life. And this is just like a little, I don't know, something after Ellen Weiss's sculpture over there. Hearts are also a big theme in my world. A pale and putrid heart on a pedestal, valves peeled apart to reveal coloring that is all wrong. How can we bleed gray when the world can only see black and white? And finally, Shayla, I was also really drawn to Sharon Farmer's piece over here. Beatrice, you remind me of the summer we discovered the hula. Patty brought down 6 or 7 from Pennsylvania, and we spent hours on the deck in the sun, turning our hair gold as we spun. We got to know our bodies and what they could do, how they could be everywhere all at once and nowhere too. Feet firm on the ground, but toes lifted, hips jutting at just the right angle, and we'd play all the parts against one another. Hands keep the balance without even touching. They hold all that we are told. And when the wrist flicks, it opens the orb wider until our arms are wrung like Saturn, and then up the shoulder to the neck. Oh, a neck encircled is the strongest it will ever be, defying gravity. But Beatrice, I see you. Compression socks keeping the swell from exploding, overloading your system, and I wonder just how many hoops you've had to jump through.
Finally, Diana Vega.
So my piece is based on this one in the room, Ellen Weiss, It Won't Be Easy. It's been 6 months, 3 weeks, and 4 days since my last Brazilian wax, is what I want to say when the wax lady Claire finds herself having to hack away at a bush, some shrubs, a little nest. There's definitely a cobweb or two down there. But instead I say, But instead I say, it's been a while, hoping that this might ease any judgment she may have. Everything off, she asks, without needing any more explanation. Maybe leave a little triangle or something. And with that instruction, I feel the first brush of hot wax against my thigh. Claire works fast, but it still doesn't feel fast enough. Each quick rip means she is getting closer and closer to the lips, the most sensitive part. And while it may have been months since I've been on somebody's spa table, spread eagle, all my business out for a stranger to mow down and trim, these are muscle memory type things. And I prepare myself for that quick rip and the piercing pain that will follow. I want to jerk my whole body away from the tear, but I know that will only make things worse, so I lie still. And I imagine what it would be like to have the permission, no, the luxury to wince or even let out a scream with shades of crimson. Your pain tolerance is really high, Claire remarks, as she moves from the table to the small counter to get more wax. It's probably just an observation, but I take it as a compliment. I want to say my pain tolerance is high because I'm a black woman in America. No, make that a strong black woman from a line of strong black women. Women who told me that this life ain't easy, but you gotta keep going because breaking down ain't an option. I've carried that mantra with me the way a toddler keeps a tight fist on a half-eaten soggy cracker. And I thought it was enough until 6 months, 3 weeks, 6 days ago, when my husband Justin said I wasn't enough. The way he first sold it to me was that we should have an open marriage. But what unraveled in the following days between tears and screams and then the silent treatment was the truth, that he had already been sleeping with someone else for the past year. And would I mind if we found a way where he could have both of us? Would I mind? No, would he mind getting the hell out of my face, out of this house, out of this life we built together for 10 years, of putting dinner on the table every night and his dreams first every morning, of him saying, wait for my next promotion, wait until we get a bigger house, wait some more until we have kids, until now I'm 39 with no man, no babies, no love. Who gonna want you at this age, gal, is what my grandma said to me 3 months ago when I had to explain why Justin wasn't at Thanksgiving dinner. Mama gave her a look that kept Grandma from saying anything. But later that night, when most folks had gone home with full bellies and to-go containers, Grandma kept me in the kitchen to help her wash the dishes. We'd started this tradition when I was 8 years old, the first year of Thanksgiving without Granddaddy, and I walked in on Grandma pouring some brown liquid in a glass, staring at a full sink of bubbles, Phyllis Hyman's Melancholy blasting from the radio and filling the whole kitchen. Keep your granny company and help me dry, pumpkin, she'd say. The questions had changed over the years, but they always came, and refusing to answer was never an option. You doing the nasty yet? Why would you pick that as your major? You've been with that man for how long and y'all ain't married yet? All these years married and y'all still ain't got no babies? So that Thanksgiving night, which made 31 years without Granddaddy and the first one without Justin, although he wasn't dead, just dead to me, the question that came before the dishes were even scraped and the hot water turned on was, you think you're the first woman whose husband ever cheated, who said he loved another woman and still wanted to love on you? Figured that Mama had already told her everything anyway, so why even pretend? I sighed and said, but this ain't 1952, Grandma. I don't have to stay in something with someone who makes me unhappy. Happiness. You happy now by yourself? Because if you are, I can't tell. You looking kind of raggedy. Obviously, cursing out a strong black grandmother was not an option, so I just turned away from her to roll my eyes, and by the time I turned back, I found the following words. So you saying I should stay? I'm saying whatever you decide, stay or go, it won't be easy. Thank you.
Let's have another round of applause for all the readers. And all the inspiring, beautiful art around us.
Thank you all for coming out, sharing your Thursday evening with us, getting a little culture in your lives.
We got we got time, so
Yeah.
we really encourage you to grab a drink, talk to the artists, talk to the writers.
We're gonna be hanging out.
Connect with each other before you leave. We got like 45 minutes before we have to be out of here, so.
We all, Also, if you're interested in hearing more from local writers, our last event of the season for the Innerloop is on November 14th, and that will be over at Shaw's Tavern. It's a great time. Come hang with us.
And thanks to Hillyer
Thank
for
you
having
again.
us.
Yeah, we're thrilled.